use the software first, get a grasp around what is it that they do, what is it that they want to do. So
Hey everyone, I am Sanskar and welcome back to another episode of Open Source Made Simple, the weekly podcast series wherein we break down and simplify open source projects and make it easier for you to contribute to the same. Check the link in the description and also subscribe to my channel to stay notified for upcoming videos. Alright then, enjoy this one. Hey Felix, thank you so much for joining me on this Open Source Made Simple podcast. Thank you so much for joining in. How are you?
happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm great. Thank you very much. I'm here in Kiel. It's getting winter, but yeah, sunny day still, and enjoying talking to you.
Awesome, wonderful. To begin with, Felix, can you please tell the audience about your first experience with open source? Because the main aim of me doing this Open Source Made Simple podcast is to help folks be aware that open source is for everyone. It does not bother about your background, your education. It only requires your commitment and your desire to code. So, how was your first experience with open source?
So, to be honest, my first real experience with open source, it's not that long ago. So it was actually when we started Hanko and when we started going open source with Hanko. So this is my first real open source project and my first real open source experience. Aside from, sure, we've used open source projects in the past, but we never actually contributed. So when I say we, I mean the team around me, now building Hanko. And yeah, I mean, of course, I've been aware of, and I've been a regular visitor of GitHub, and we have a GitLab instance where we developed our code in the past. But really, this the build in public, what we do and live now, this has started for me in February, March this year. So that's all I can say to that.
Wonderful. So, what was your reason for building Hanko in open source?
So it's an authentication solution. It's usually one of the first tech decisions that's been made for every new project. And the reason going open source here, I think it's pretty clear. Um, we want to deliver maximum transparency here for one, and also we want to allow our customers, our users, to participate how we will move this project forward. Those are, I think, the two main reasons.
Do you feel that building a product in open source, especially when you include pricing, it somewhere becomes difficult to do that in open source?
Um, I don't think so. I think things have changed there a lot over the past few years. I think it's pretty common now to launch an open source project, and it's pretty clear, I think, to everyone. At some point, you will have to make money to sustain further development of the project, and I think it's pretty much accepted to launch a business on top of an open source project. So um, as long as you bring value by, for example, as we will do it, by hosting the software securely with high availability and take care of everything that's involved here, I think it's clear to everyone that this is value, and you it's okay to pay for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So is it like there are some different features which are included in the pricing and the code is not open sourced? How is it that basically differentiating in the same product in the same company, open source and the commercial side of things? How to differentiate that?
Mm. So Um, we haven't launched our commercial offering yet, so we're just building Hanko on GitHub. Everything is there. You can download it, you can use it, you can contribute it to it. What we will launch very soon is what we call Hanko Cloud, where we host the API for you, and it's just 2 clicks, and you have your authentication system up and running. Then it's a few lines of code, and you can integrate our web component into your app or into your website, whatever you are building. And so it doesn't get easier. So it's very, very simple. But as I said, this is just about to launch. So far we only have the open source project. and we launched Hanko Cloud with one simple pricing tier. It's very affordable, a lot of value for that, and this is how we will enter the market, targeting developers all around the world, looking for a very sophisticated but very simple and easy to integrate login solution.
Wonderful. Felix, in the recent past, I have observed that many of the developer tools are started to becoming open source, but there are already some big players in the market. So how do you think that things will go move forward? Like, will there be a bit of competition between these open source and already existing players in the market, or how do you think that will go about?
Yeah, I mean, there clearly is competition going on. There are big players, especially in our sector, authentication. It's a big market already. It's an existing market for many years. We just felt, and we still feel it every day, of course, that there's a clear need for a very slick open source solution here that differentiates itself first, of course, by just being open source, being so transparent, being built in public, the ability to influence basically where this is going directly through the different channels that we offer for that. So this is like our main differentiator. When looking at the different players that are in the market, billion-dollar companies here, companies like Auth0, for example, they do this what we do basically pretty well for such a long time, but they have a different approach here. It's quite expensive to go with them after a certain threshold of users, and also again they are targeting developers, but they are not open source. For me, that's like a conflict that's unresolvable, basically.
Now let's talk about contributing to Hanko. So the first thing which comes to my mind when I think about contributing is picking up issues. So do you have any advice on how folks can go about picking issues, selecting issues to contribute to?
Mm.
Because if let's say I pick up Hanko, I want to contribute to it, but there's a big issue list. How do I select which issue can I work on?
Mhm. So what we don't have right now is a big issue list because so far we've been tracking our issues, our roadmap in Notion, in our internal Notion. We've just started moving or creating new issues on GitHub, mainly for that reason, but also to offer transparency here about our roadmap and so on. But yeah, we didn't do a good job here so far. This is about to change. Um, Other companies right now, that's what I saw, is they use GitHub projects, for example, and they list all the, for example, the beginner issues. They explicitly tag those issues and say it's a good first issue. It's a good help required, for example. So they have a list with issues they think it's very good issues for external contributions. And yeah, this is influencing us, and this is where we will go with our project as well, starting now today. And it's a very recent decision to do this, and yeah, we've just started here. But I think one thing is very important for us, at least. We are a pretty fresh project, so not so many things are set in stone. Everything is in motion. Everything can be redecided, or almost everything. And I think it's a very good idea to, if you're unsure, you want to contribute, you're a bit unsure how to do it, join our Slack community. So we are on Slack, not on Discord as many others. We are on Slack still, but we like it there. We use it for internal communication. So we stick to Slack for now. There's a community, and it's around 120, 130, I don't know exactly, folks there. Very helpful around all this authentication, passkey, passwordless stuff that we do. And if you want to contribute to our code, feel free to just ask questions, and we will point you to what we think is a good idea to do. And of course, we will highly value any input that we see there. And we've got some very very comprehensive external issues, for example, already. No pull requests yet, but issues that set things in motion here for us and added new things we want to do. And we could also invite others to join us here on these tasks. Yeah, but
Right.
communicate with us before. I think it's a very good idea. Not dig yourself in and build something over days, or I don't know, maybe even weeks, and then present us the result. I don't think that's a good idea. Let's talk about it first. I think that's a much better approach.
Also, I think that in order to contribute to a project, one should first be familiar with the community, discuss with the community, as you rightly mentioned, that I'm thinking about making such so and so change, so that the maintainers are not surprised, but oh, where has this
Yes.
come from? So
Yes.
basically, that's what I'm trying to say, right?
Yes, we are also in the process of setting up contributors guidelines right now, where we basically say the same things, but also it's not. I don't think it's live yet. We're just in the process of creating this, but yeah, communicate. And I don't think it's true for us only. It's for every open source project. See how they're approaching things. Every team has maybe their own dynamics, their own decision-making process, and so on. And I think it's a good idea to get involved there as soon as possible, and then see what you can do to contribute here.
What do you feel is the benefit of contributing to any open source project?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, for once, you can try to steer things into the direction where you want to see the project. I think that's pretty unique to open source that you can do that in such a way. Of course, that involves a very heavy commitment in the end if you really want to bring things to production and impact it strongly. Um, I mean, for many, it's probably fun just to play a little role, play a part in a cool project. It's like a puzzle or a game you can participate in, and that's those two aspects probably cover pretty much the main reasons I think to contribute. So this would drive me to do it. Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about pull requests. Do you think that there is a set pattern or a set criteria which qualifies a pull request as a good pull request? Because there's always scope for improvement. So what differentiates a good pull request from not such a good pull request?
Probably restating what I said before. I think it's a very good idea to see what's actually on the roadmap and what's required, what will move the project forward. So this is like the first thing I think you have to check, and then of course the changes should be documented. What does the PR do? Maybe screenshots, maybe a little introduction. What's the idea behind it, and so on. That's something we value highly for everything we do internally. Um, Again, then the process of the review of the PR should be very. If someone has a comment or a request for a change, this should be answered quickly. Of course, I think for me this is also part of the PR itself, is how to handle comments and so on. So yeah, I mean, if you leave something hanging for a week or so, you may it may be stalled forever, and so be be responsive there. I think it's a very good idea. The one creating the pull request is responsible for it, so it's still in their hand to drive this forward and to merge it in the end.
Are there also any opportunities for non-code contributions to Hanko at the moment?
Yes, definitely. I don't know. I mean, what we would love are integrations, right? I mean, we've working on an integration for Webflow, for example, a little guide. It's not non-code, but it's not very heavily. Uh, it's not very much code probably needed for it. So this is something we would highly appreciate someone else doing. Also, what we haven't done so far is integrations with Flutter or with React Native. So first steps into these directions would also be very helpful. It doesn't have to be like a complete pull request or an SDK or whatever. That we would not think someone else would do that for at this moment at least. But so first steps, maybe finding problems here. This would be very helpful for us. Just trying things out in different environments, and yeah, give us feedback on that. Would be very helpful.
Now, again, going to the business side of things. Let's say folks listening to us, someone from the audience is startup minded, wants to launch a product. So, what would you tell them that why should they build their product in open source as compared to closed source?
So for us, at first, it was definitely a go-to-market question. Our audience are developers, and how to better target developers than with an open source project. I'm honest about this. This is the reason. Then, when we started doing this, I would say there's no going back. So I would never do a proprietary solution once you go this way. I don't think you will return. So I think this should say enough about the process, the transparency of it, the all the flows, the community, the feedback. From day one, you get feedback about your ideas and about what you do. You may be lucky like we were and get good traction, get a lot of stars and a lot of eyeballs on your project, a lot of feedback on different channels. It's so much fun. It's so much better to have this early validation than instead of building something on your own for, I don't know, half a year or a year, and then show it to folks. They may not like it. So you wanted to you would like to know that on the first day and not after a year. So yeah, I can only highly recommend this. I would never go back.
Awesome then. Felix, to end the conversation, I would love to ask you to share any 3 tips which you have for folks who want to contribute to open source.
So one thing that comes to my mind, aside from what I was saying before that, I mean, talk to folks before you do something. I think it's a good idea. Maybe the issue is self-explanatory and very clear, then you may just start right away. Should be okay. Use the software first. Get a grasp around what is it that they do, what is it that they want to do. So have a feel for the project itself. I think it's a good idea to do that first. Then if you've never written a line of Go, for example, our backend is written in Go, you may not want to do a contribution that changes code of this Go project. That should not be your first interaction with Golang, contributed to an external project. We had that in the past. Of course, it didn't work, and I would not recommend doing this. I don't say you have to be an expert, but yeah, it shouldn't be the first lines of code that you write in a language. So this is something that comes to my mind. Maybe take start with small tasks and then work yourself upwards to the more complex things. Yeah, that's what comes to my mind.